This is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Stacy. My name is Shannon Novosel. I grew up in Kentucky. I was a Division I basketball player, and that led me to play overseas and also traveled in about 15 different countries during my 20s. I pretty much became unemployable, so I came back and opened my own business at 29, and I now have 7 different offices, and I'm in financial education and services. Teach people how to make money work better for them.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. Well, I can't wait to hear more about the basketball tours.
That was
That
awesome.
might be another podcast, but I am going to ask about that at some point.
Please do.
Question number 2 for you. What's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
I think from the examples of leadership that I've had in my life, I would say that a do-it-first leader and coming with the mindset of serving. I think as the captain of my basketball teams and also just from now leading an organization, I think what is really important in a leadership standpoint is doing it yourself first and not asking anything of others that you haven't already done or that you wouldn't do. And I'm very much that servant leadership is do it first, lead by example, and then you'll have others that are just follow. Either they're going to follow, they're going to go at their own speed, but the ones that are following very quickly are the ones that you realize are the leaders that you can learn from, but that also are going to help move you forward.
That's amazing. Oh, you get me thinking about John Wooden as you start to talk, and I think about all my great references through the basketball lens.
Yes. Magic Johnson, I think, is one of my favorite leaders. On the court, he was such a good player coach, and so he was right there with his team the whole time, talking to them, so communicating and effectively doing so. But I do think leadership qualities, it's leading by example, but then also communicating that example to your team it creates a lot of different challenges that I embrace because I think it's really important to kind of chameleon yourself with each person that you're leading in order to connect with them. And then you learn from them, but then also they're able to learn better from you through that communication of chameleon.
I love that. Question number 3. I often hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for that pesky people part. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that?
Maybe I've been in the business world for about 4 years now, so I haven't gained a ton of wisdom in that department, but like you, I've been trying to condense time frames, less time, more wisdom, and learning from people that have already been there and people that we admire. I would say that I've learned to embrace people, especially you can learn so much about someone if you're purposely looking for the gold in them. So instead of, letting whatever annoys you initially about maybe a first impression, instead of dwelling on that, immediately challenge your mindset to shift so that you're seeing what that little nugget is that they can bring to the table and that gold in them. Because the more that you believe in someone, the more they're going to perform for you, the more they're going to give you their all. And I had a couple of coaches and a couple of, mentors that were able to do that for me. And that was something that I think really helped me in terms of taking that initiative. And when someone believes in you, then it's a lot easier to perform.
Love that. The power of believing in somebody. So simple, but yet, so powerful, impactful.
Yes.
Question 4. What piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders?
That's a good one. I would say listening is the best form of communicating in terms of understanding someone. So listen to understand and not just to respond, right? So I know we hear that a lot, and I think active listening. So I'm huge on, if you are thinking something or emoting something, tell your face, like show it, but I know that a lot of people, they don't emote that way. I'm very emotive, and that's one of the things I've learned with people that maybe are less emotive is just listen to them and then let them, they may explain instead of in body language, they may explain what they're trying to convey to you through their words. I was just always told that 93% of communication is nonverbal, So I think that listening is a big part of making sure that you're communicating efficiently, and then processing, being okay with processing time, and then being able to give back to someone.
I love how you say, tell your face. So I think that's hilarious. And no, and so true in a lot of cases, right?
Yes.
But I think back to that chameleon thing you even talked about earlier as being really, responsive and in the moment to what the other person needs, which in a lot of cases is to be heard.
Yes,
That's
yes,
beautiful.
exactly.
Question 5 for you. What other successful business leaders like yourself should be on the show? In other words, like what other Shannons out there should we be paying attention to?
I love it. There are, so I work, we're a $500 billion parent company out of the Netherlands, and here in the US, we are all independent business owners. And so, for example, one of the mentors I look up to is her career, she was able to begin part-time in Navy. So she was full-time active duty Navy. And as she transitioned, one of the toughest places to do this business is in New York. And so out of New York, she just kind of came out of nowhere. And as the more I've gotten to know her, her name is Andrea Buckhamjack, and her attitude is just unlike anybody else's I've ever heard. She's incredibly, mentally tough. And I think that's something I really admire in someone. And her family's from Jamaica, so she's an immigrant here, and she's just a fighter, a warrior. So that would be somebody that I think a lot of people could enjoy listening to and relate to. In terms of her communication is wonderful. She works with a very large team. So Andrea Buckhamjack, I think that would have to be somebody that maybe is another Shannon out there.
That's amazing. Thank you. We'll go find her and we'll make sure we get her on the show. All right. Magic question number 6. Tell us about your favorite boss or teacher who's really influenced you, or coach.
That is awesome. I would have to say one of my first bosses her name was Dolly Wolf, and I'm about 6'2", she's about 5 feet, nothing. And she is a sassy Latina lady out of Arizona. And when we connected, our communication styles were completely different. So she was my first boss out of college, and I was used to a coach, not so much a boss. And so we really hit heads for a good 6 months of, we just didn't understand each other. And then one day we were in New York City on a business trip together, and we walked like New York blocks for I don't know how long. And we kind of had a come to Jesus moment where it was like we were able to relate. So I think sometimes switching up the environment, is one of the ways that you can maybe connect with somebody that you aren't doing very well with, but she definitely made an impact on me in that she listened to me and was able to help me just discover who I was in a much more positive light. And I think that never would have happened if we hadn't gotten outside our work environment.
Well, and I think, again, you choosing to let somebody in and seeing what gold you could find. And, there's a lot of intentionality to the things that you talked about there. So I want to make sure to recognize that.
That's true. That's a good point. Do I have time to give one more person?
Go for it.
Okay. I would say, well, I know I mentioned Magic. I have a lot of people in the basketball community I respect, but one of the most successful people, and I mean, just in terms of happiness in life, was my coach in college. She coaches at Toledo now, and she has had quite a career, a professional career in women's basketball. And I think it was originally, we had a love-hate relationship. We were both very competitive. But that was one of the reasons I grew to respect her, was because she gave me a hard time, but it wasn't without intention, like you said, because I realized when someone doesn't pay attention to you, then you probably should worry. But she was paying attention to me and just kind of giving me a hard time that first freshman year, but it was because she wanted me to start sophomore year, so in my own best interest. So I would maybe say that that's something that people, you might take friction as a bad thing, but I really think it can be something that can be embraced and can help you get to where you're trying to go in the long run.
Oh, I love that. You're so articulate and, so charming. I just had such a pleasure having you on the show. Your insights have been amazing. How can people find you if they want to reach out and say hi or learn more or find out about this basketball career?
Awesome. A message on LinkedIn is always welcome. Shannon Novosel is my name on LinkedIn. And then also I'm pretty active on Instagram. I just love to share my personal and business life, and I'm at Shannon in CEO.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for your contribution today. It's been wonderful having you. And this
Awesome.
is Stacey McKibben on the Master Communicator podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. We look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.